Greetings from the homestead, Volkmom here. It's high summer and the workload is heavy on the farm. The garden has begun to burst with the fruits of our labor. It is so rewarding to be able to harvest food for my family that will nourish us. The most stoic character in the field right now is cabbage. With its giant blue-green leaves, the plants are almost 3 feet tall. They securely hold in their centers the tightly packed heads which I will use to make traditional European sauerkraut. This is a lacto-fermented food. Our ancestors used this natural process to preserve many types of vegetables without freezing or canning. Sauerkraut is so wonderfully German, but various forms of it exist in every European country. Traditionally eaten as a condiment, this delicious food stimulates digestion, maintains and promotes a healthy and balanced gut flora, and is full of much-needed vitamin C, which is so important especially in winter. Fermented, or real kraut, is also anti-carcinogenic, helping prevent cancer. If we could step back in time to visit our ancient ancestors, we would find that every household in every village would have a barrel or crock of sauerkraut. Not only is it pleasantly salty and sour, but it would have likely been a food that helped our people survive harsh conditions and hard times. It should be noted that today, what is packaged and sold as sauerkraut in grocery stores is nothing like real fermented sauerkraut. Not only are the flavors and texture lacking, but modern factory-made kraut is completely void of any nutritional value, much like anything modernity has to offer us. So many of our people are accustomed to eating processed foods made with chemical preservatives, insane amounts of sugar, and MSG. That diet is by design and is meant to keep us down. It's time to rise up and reclaim our folkish food traditions. Anyone can make sauerkraut. Lactofermentation is the term to describe a microbial process using beneficial, naturally occurring lactic acid bacteria. It releases and stabilizes nutrients in the food. There is a wealth of more detailed information, as well as history and lore, much of which can be quite entertaining. But today, I hope to inspire you to try making your own at home by getting you started with the basic method. If you have access to your grandparents' old shredding blade, oak wood kraut pounder, and a sturdy old stone crock, then by all means clean them up and use them. Or invest in those tools which will become new heirlooms you can pass on by ordering from reputable sources online. I'm going to assume most folks don't have those things. However, you can still make wonderful sauerkraut with just a few simple items. You will need cabbage, sea salt, a very sharp blade, a chopping knife or a mandolin will do, or a food processor. You'll also need a clean hammer or mallet, and a container for your kraut to ferment in. This can be anything from a 1-quart or a half-gallon mason jar to a recycled 1-gallon glass pickle jar or a stoneware crock. I don't recommend plastic, for it contains substances which will leach out, many of which are hormone disruptors. Basically, you just shred the cabbage, salt it, and then pound it until the juices flow. This is the method our ancestors used. After these steps, press the cabbage down as tightly as possible in your fermenting vessel. Make sure the liquid rises above at least 2 inches. Place a weight, such as a very clean stone, on top, and then cover it with a linen cloth to keep the bugs out. To make a tiny batch, use a 1-quart mason jar with a half-pint jar as a weight. After 3 days, remove the weight. Place the lid on the jar and age it in the refrigerator a couple weeks. Larger crocks should ferment 4 to 6 weeks. You can check it and taste it throughout the fermentation until it's just right. The cabbage-salt ratio is about 1 to 1.5 tablespoons sea salt to 1 head of cabbage. The salt draws out the juices to create the brine and stabilizes it to create the right environment for fermentation. If mold accumulates on top of your ferment, don't worry. Just carefully scrape and remove the top layer to reveal perfectly good kraut below. It is very important to keep the flies out. Once it's finished fermenting, place in glass jars in cold storage. It will keep indefinitely and it gets better with age. You can lacto-ferment just about any other vegetable too. Carrots, squash, beets, garlic, cucumbers, turnips, radishes, peppers, corn, and green beans all lend themselves well to this process. You can skip the pounding step with these. Just wash, chop, and place in a glass jar using 1 tablespoon of sea salt per quart jar. Cover with clean, filtered, non-chlorinated water, leaving 1 inch of headspace in the jar. Place the lid on the jar and set it in a warm place for 2 to 3 days. It will bubble and ferment. Afterwards, it will keep indefinitely in cold storage. Once you get the hang of it, there's plenty of room for creativity, using different spices, herbs, seaweed, and even fruits. If you're interested in this and other traditional foods, my favorite book on these topics is Nourishing Traditions, the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and the diet dictocrats by Sally Fallon. I hope you enjoyed this segment today, and thank you so much for listening.